The best financial advice you will ever receive is not on a podcast. It is not in a book with a color-coded system and a foreword from someone who sold a company with 8 figures. It is not in the thread that went viral last spring, the one with a numbered list and the graphic someone turned into a carousel in the comments section full of people saying, "This changed everything for me." It is not advice at all, technically. It is a moment. A specific kind of moment that happens to most people at least once, usually quietly, usually alone, usually at a time of day when the noise has stopped and the phone is face down and something true finally has enough room to land. You have probably already had this moment. You just might not have known what it was when it arrived. Here is the advice. Not a list, not a framework, not 5 steps you can screenshot and return to. Just the thing itself, the actual thing, dressed in the story of how most people finally hear it. You were 28 years old, and you're standing in a grocery store checkout line on a Thursday evening with $17 and some change left in your checking account and 4 days until payday. The cart has what it has. You already did the math in the dairy aisle. You already put the good olive oil back. You already made the calculation, the quiet, humiliating one about whether the total at the register is going to be the total you can cover. And you're fairly sure it is, but fairly sure is not certain. And certain is the only thing that matters when the line is moving and the person behind you is already placing their items on the belt. The card goes through. You exhale in a way that nobody around you notices. You bag your own groceries because the self-checkout felt safer than a cashier whose face might change. You walk to your car, and you sit in it for a moment before you start the engine. And somewhere in that moment, in the particular silence of a Thursday evening parking lot with $17 left and 4 days to go, a question forms that is not new, but feels new in the way things feel new when they finally stop being abstract. How did I get here? Not dramatically, not as a crisis, just as an honest question, sitting in the driver's seat of a car you were still making payments on, next to a bag of groceries that required arithmetic. You are not a cautionary tale. You have a job. You have a degree. You have done most of the things you were told to do in the order you were told to do them. You are not the person the advice was supposed to fail. And yet, here is the Thursday. Here is the $17. Here is the exhale you are still recovering from. This is where the best financial advice you will ever hear begins. Not with a strategy, with a question you are finally ready to let be honest. The first thing the advice says is this: the problem is not that you spend too much on coffee. You have been told in various forms by various sources that mean well that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is a matter of small daily expenses that compound over time into something significant. The latte, the lunch out, the subscription you forgot to cancel. And there is truth in there, technically, mathematically, if you run the numbers out far enough. But it is the wrong truth for where you actually are. Because the latte is not why you had $17 on a Thursday. The latte is $6. The gap that puts you in that parking lot is not a $6 gap. It is a structural gap, a shape of the whole thing gap. And treating it like a coffee problem is the financial equivalent of bailing out a boat with a cup while the hull has a hole in it. The coffee advice persists because it is actionable and it is visible, and it makes the person giving it feel helpful. It's advice that assumes the problem is discipline when the actual problem is architecture, the way the money is organized or not organized before it ever reaches a latte. Your colleague Brendan gets the same paycheck you get, give or take. You know this the way you know things about people you spend 40 hours a week near. He does not cut his coffee. He does not track his lunches. He does not appear to think about money with any particular intensity on any given Tuesday. And yet, Brendan owns his car. Brendan has what he describes as a little bit set aside in a way that sounds casual and is clearly not nothing. Brendan did not exhale the way you exhaled on Thursday.
The difference between you and Brendan is not coffee. It is that Brendan, at some point, possibly without even knowing it, built the structure before he spent the rest. That's the advice. The whole advice. Everything else is just the explanation of what it means. The structure comes first, not the discipline, not the willpower, not the spreadsheet you maintain enthusiastically for 11 days and then abandon because it required too much friction to sustain.
The structure. Here is what structure means in practice. It means the money you intend to save leaves your checking account before your checking account learns it's there. Not after rent, not after the card, not after this month settles down. Before. Automatically. On the day the paycheck arrives or the day after, in a transfer you set up once and then leave alone. It means you have accounts that serve different purposes, and the money that belongs in each one goes there without requiring a decision from the version of you who is tired on a Tuesday evening or tempted on a Saturday afternoon. It means the structure does the work that willpower cannot sustain, because willpower runs out. Willpower has an off switch that gets hit by stress and boredom and the group chat and the thing in the cart you convinced yourself was reasonable. Structure does not have an off switch. Structure runs on the first of the month, whether you are having a good week or a bad one. This is the thing Brendan did not explain, because Brendan does not think of it as a thing. He just set it up at some point the way you set up automatic bill pay. It runs. He barely thinks about it. The money that is supposed to grow is already growing. The money that is supposed to stay put is staying put. What is left in checking is the number he actually has to spend, and he spends it without tracking it because there is nothing to track. The structure already handled everything important. You set this up on a Sunday afternoon, not because you felt motivated, because you were in the specific mood that follows a hard Thursday, the mood where something true has had enough time to settle and you are tired of waiting for a better moment that keeps not arriving. It takes 40 minutes, 3 accounts, checking for what flows, high-yield savings for the money that is not supposed to move, a brokerage account for the money that is supposed to grow, automatic transfers from checking to each of the others scheduled for the day after your paycheck lands. The amounts are not impressive. They are the amounts that are true, not the amounts that sound good. $80 to savings, $60 to the brokerage. Whatever is left in checking is the number you have. You close the laptop. Nothing about your life looks different. You did not feel a shift. You did not take a photo of the confirmation screen. You just made dinner and watched something and went to bed. But the structure is running now, and the structure does not care how you feel about it. The second thing the advice says is this. The debt that is compounding against you is more urgent than the investment that is compounding for you. You have a card. Most people have a card. The balance on it has a number you know approximately, but not exactly, because exact requires opening the app, and opening the app requires being ready to see the number, and being ready to see the number requires a kind of readiness that is harder to summon than it sounds. You open the app. You look at the number exactly. The interest rate is printed there in type small enough to require intention to read. You read it. 22%. Here is what 22% means in the language of what is actually happening to you. Every dollar you carry on that balance costs you 22 cents a year to borrow. The dinner you charged 3 months ago is not the price on the receipt anymore. It is that price plus every month it has been sitting there accruing quietly in the background of your life while you paid the minimum and told yourself you would handle it properly next month. The math of compound interest is the most important math most people never learn until they are on the wrong side of it. It works identically in both directions. The same mechanism that Ronald Read used to build $8 million on a gas station attendant's salary, quietly, over 50 years of leaving ordinary index fund shares in a safe deposit box and not touching them, that exact mechanism is running against you at 22%. Debt compounds the same way wealth compounds. Same math, opposite owner. Every month you carry a balance, the bank earns what you were hoping to earn for yourself someday. You did not mean to fund someone else's future. You just never saw it described that way. The card is the priority, not the investment, not the index fund, not the retirement account beyond the employer match, which is free money that requires only one action, contributing enough to receive it. Pay the card. Pay it with the ferocity of someone who finally understands that the interest is a subscription fee they are paying on their own borrowed life. You take whatever is extra after the automatic transfers run and the essentials are covered, and you send it at the balance with the highest rate, not the smallest, the highest rate. Not the one that feels most manageable, the one that is actually costing you the most money every month it sits there. The night you pay it off, nothing will look different. No notification will arrive with ceremony. You will just close the app knowing that tomorrow costs a little less than yesterday, which is the quietest version of ahead that exists, and over time, the most real. The third thing the advice says is this: comparison is a financial instrument, and you have been using it against yourself. Your friend Meredith posted a story 40 minutes ago, a car you had to zoom in to identify, a caption that made it look effortless. You put your phone face down and tried to have the conversation you were already in, but part of you was somewhere else doing the math that nobody invited you to do. You have been keeping score in a game where the scoreboard is other people's visible choices. The car, the bag, the ring across the table at brunch, the house in Waxhaw with 4 bedrooms and both names on the mortgage. You have been measuring your position against the performance of wealth rather than the architecture of it. And the performance of wealth is specifically designed to be seen, which means it is optimized for visibility, not for truth. Rich is a number you can see. The car, the bag, the apartment below you. It says what someone was willing to spend to look a certain way in a moment that gets photographed. It says nothing about what is actually theirs. The Vanderbilts were the richest family in America once. Steamships and railroads, more money than any bloodline had accumulated. Within a few generations, most of it was gone. Not stolen, spent. Estates too large to maintain, celebrations too grand to survive, the performance of wealth so complete and so expensive that it consumed the wealth itself. Rich is what you can see, wealthy is the part with no picture. Wealthy is the balance nobody screenshots. It is the transfer that cleared this morning while you were still asleep. It is boring on purpose. It does not perform. It does not need an audience because it is not trying to communicate anything to anyone. It is just sitting there, in plain names, doing the slow, unglamorous work of compounding in the right direction. The moment you stop trying to be visible with your money is the moment your money starts doing something real. You still notice things. You still feel the half-second drop when someone posts a life that looks more finished than yours. That doesn't go away cleanly. But underneath the drop, something has shifted. The car that started this whole thing is someone's lease payment due in 30 days. The bag you charged and carried twice is still accruing interest. The ring at brunch is beautiful, and it is also not your race, and it was never your race. And somewhere between the parking lot and the Sunday afternoon when you set up the accounts, you started to feel the difference between watching someone else's scoreboard and building something they will never be able to see. The fourth thing the advice says is this: time is the only asset that cannot be recovered, and you have more of it right now than you will ever have again. You type something into a search bar at 1 in the morning, not a tip, just an honest question. What came back was a man named Ronald Reed, who drove a beat-up car and held his coat together with a safety pin and left almost $8 million to a library and a hospital when he died at 92. A gas station attendant, a part-time floor sweeper at a department store. $8 million built on $300 a month, and 50 years of leaving it alone. He did not pick the right stock. He did not time anything. He just understood at some point that time is the engine, and money is only the fuel. The engine doesn't care how much fuel you pour in at once. It cares how long you let it run. 72 divided by your rate of return tells you how many years until your money doubles. At the historical average of the broad market, roughly 10%, that's 7 years.
7 years to double, then 7 more to double again. Except the second doubling is worth twice what the first one was, because it's doubling a larger number, and the third is worth twice the second. The curve does not move in a straight line. It bends upward slowly at first, and then in a way that stops looking like the same math you started with. Warren Buffett built 97% of his net worth after the age of 65. Not the years everyone talks about, the years nobody photographs, the years that look from the outside like an old man still going to work when he doesn't have to. What they actually are is the back half of a curve that started when he was 11 years old and never got interrupted.
You are 28. You have started. The curve is running. The $60 a month that went into the brokerage account on the Sunday you set everything up is not going to buy the car or the bag or the house in Waxhaw. It is going to do something those things cannot do. It is going to still exist in 7 years, and in 14, and in 21, and each time it doubles, it will be doubling something larger than the last doubling doubled. The best financial advice you will ever hear is not about the number you start with. It is about not stopping. The curve needs one thing from you: continuity. Stay in when the market drops and everything in you wants out. Stay in when Caleb from the office is showing you a chart that is green and climbing, and the voice in your head is asking why you are in the boring version when the exciting version is right there. Stay in when 6 months have passed and the balance looks the same as it did 6 months ago, and it feels like nothing is happening. Something is happening. It is just happening on a timeline that does not require your attention. Caleb bought a watch that did not arrive. The stock dropped 18% in 2 days, and because he had borrowed to buy in, the 18% hit like something larger. The broker sold him out automatically at the bottom. You did the math later. If you lose half of what you have, you do not need 50% back to recover. You need 100. If you lose 80%, you need 400% just to return to where you started. The deeper the hole, the more the climb out costs, and it doesn't scale in a straight line. It curves against you the same way wealth curves for you, just aimed the wrong direction. You will never borrow to make the number move faster. You will never put in what you cannot survive losing. You will keep owning the boring version of everything on purpose, not because you are not smart enough for the exciting version, but because you have done the math on what the exciting version costs when it goes wrong, and you cannot afford to start over. Here's what the advice looks like when it's been running long enough. Payday arrives. You feel the buzz, or you are still asleep when it lands. You do not open the app immediately. You do not do the mental math in the elevator or parking lot. You know what's going to happen because you decided what was going to happen weeks ago on a Sunday afternoon in 40 minutes, and it runs without requiring anything from the version of you who is tired or tempted or watching someone else's story and feeling the half-second drop. The savings account has what it needs. The brokerage took its $60. The card balance is lower than it was last month, lower than it was the month before that, moving in the direction you pointed it. What is in checking is the number that is actually yours. You spend it without tracking it. There is nothing to track. The structure already handled everything important. Meredith will post something else. Someone will show you a chart. There will be a brunch where a ring catches the light and everyone leans in and you say all the right things and mean them. And underneath the small talk, something will be different. Not in the things you own, not in anything anyone else can see, just in the particular quiet of knowing that your money is doing something while you're doing something else entirely, running on a structure you set up once and then left alone, compounding in the right direction, on a curve that started on a Sunday afternoon after a Thursday that finally told you something true. The best financial advice you will ever hear is not what you do once, it is what you build once and then do not interrupt. The curve needs one thing, just that you do not stop. You are not going to stop. The structure is running.